Before we get into it today, this video is sponsored by the Omega game, which has a ton of cool stuff like shooting, online dating aspects, falling fruits, light swords, platforming, city building. Wait, that doesn't sound right. Let me read my script again. Oh, that explains it. I'm doing the wrong ad bit. This is actually a sponsor segment for Raid Shadow Legends, the most acclaimed mobile RPG of all time with over 600 unique recruitable heroes. I'm sure you've heard of this game by now, but it keeps getting bigger and better. They recently added the highly requested Live Arena mode, where you can face off in real-time combat against the other 80 million players worldwide at set time periods, to climb the ranks and win new gear or even whole new champions. It's easier than ever to get into Raid, considering they're giving you, through my special link, a very strong starter pack, featuring 4 energy refills, 4 magic potions, 4 XP brews, and this epic champion, Keelan the Shrike. He's got a bow, and last I checked, bow users are pretty strong in this game. Raid recently turned 4 years old, so entering the promo code 4YearsRaid can power you up even more, but this is only valid until April 9th, so you better hurry with that. I play Raid Shadow Legends a lot, and would love to do so with you guys sometime, so go look up my account in-game and maybe we could do some battling together sometime. Once again, big thanks to Raid Shadow Legends for supporting my channel today. Be sure to check out my link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. And now, let's get on with the video. You know, I've made a lot of cool discoveries in Smash Ultimate since its launch in 2018, from Joker having millions of different victory screens to Kazuya's Rage Drive making the controller mimic a heartbeat with HD Rumble. But in all those years, do you want to know what my favorite little detail ever is? Well, it's actually one I discovered very recently, and that is that Sonic has a secret third idle animation which can only happen on his home stage Green Hill Zone. On this stage, if you play as Sonic and don't make any inputs at all for 3 minutes, Sonic will look at you, wag his finger, and then jump off the side of the stage, which actually makes him lose his stock in the process. This is a clear reference to the game Sonic CD from 1993, in which he does basically the same thing. Not making any inputs for 3 minutes makes him wag his finger at you and jump off screen, making you lose a life. In Smash, this invisible timer seems to activate as soon as you stop moving. You can do whatever you want as Sonic, but as soon as your last input ends, Sonic will jump off stage exactly 3 minutes later. Even if you stand still, however, getting attacked by an opponent also resets the timer back to 3 minutes. What's interesting is that this doesn't happen if you play with stage hazards turned off, which weirdly enough makes complete sense. I mean, it's exclusive to this stage and it kills you, so it's a hazard. Meaning that if you turn off hazards, it stops happening, which might explain why it took me so long to discover this, as I usually play this game with hazards turned off. It also doesn't happen on the other Sonic stage, Windy Hill Zone, which might be because that stage's origin, Sonic Lost World, didn't have an Easter egg like this. But that's ironic, considering Sonic CD didn't have Green Hill Zone as a level, which in Smash is the only stage this happens on. Since we're on the topic of idle animations, there's actually another character in the game with a secret one that only happens under specific circumstances, that being Pokémon Trainer. A while back I was playing some Smash Online with a buddy of mine where we only picked random. In one of those matches I got Mewtwo and they got Pokemon Trainer. And at one point they told me over our Discord call that they have to go do something real quick. And since this was online where you can't pause the game, they just laid down their controller and I started goofing around a bit, waiting for them to get back. But then something weird happened. The Pokemon Trainer in the background did this. She grabbed a Pokeball from her bag, looked at it for a while, and then put it back. Good thing I saw that, because I had never seen that animation before and had no idea why it happened. And trust me, I am very familiar with character idle animations in this game. After that, my friend came back, we finished the match, I saved the replay, which is what you've been looking at, and began studying it. I stood around in training mode for a while seeing if she would do it again, and she just wouldn't. I was stumped at first, but then I had an epiphany. She did this because she was fighting Mewtwo. That's probably an empty Pokeball that she's waiting to catch it with after the battle when she's weakened it enough. So I fired up training mode again, this time making sure the CPU was set to Mewtwo, and sure enough she did the same animation. And while I was at it, I also checked if Mill Pokemon Trainer does this as well, and of course he does, though he obviously grabs it from his backpack behind him instead. I also checked if this animation can play when fighting against any other Pokemon characters, and it doesn't except against Lucario. Against them, this animation also happens. And this is probably because Lucario and Mewtwo are the only 2 Pokemon characters that don't emerge from a Pokeball at the start of a match, indicating that they haven't been caught by a trainer yet. Pikachu, Jigglypuff, Pichu, Greninja, Incineroar, and the Pokemon Trainer trio obviously all emerge from a Pokeball at the start of a match, meaning they're already caught by a trainer and can't be recaptured. So that's neat. When fighting against Lucario or Mewtwo as Pokemon Trainer, their goal is to catch their opponent. I guess they learned after the Subspace Emissary that they really shouldn't rely on just 3 very specific Pokemon, though personally I'd use an Ultra Ball or something if you're gonna catch a legendary. Moving on to something else, you know the healing food items? They can take on a lot of different appearances. Bread, apple, hamburger, popcorn, smash, milk. What? Well, all these items heal a varying amount of damage, but did you know that a specific one can actually hurt you? It's true. And that would be the chocolate item, which lightly damages both Isabelle and Duck Hunt. Because in real life, chocolate is poisonous to dogs and can cause serious damage. At first I thought this was kind of an evil joke on Nintendo's part, but then I realized that this may somehow be done to teach young kids not to just feed their pet dogs anything they want. After all, Minecraft did the same thing. Originally, chocolate chip cookies were going to be used to tame wild parrots, but instead the developers made it kill them instead, as chocolate is also really bad for birds, and they didn't want to give impressionable young players the idea that parrots like chocolate. This is all well and good, but there are other food items that should hurt them but don't. Dogs can't eat grapes either, and yet the bundle of grapes item heals Isabelle and Duck Hunt just fine. And also, Incineroar can eat chocolate without harm in Smash, which is crazy because chocolate is especially toxic for cats in real life. It can straight up be fatal to them. But then again, I guess Incineroar isn't really a cat, he's just a Pokemon based on one. So, whatever. Just don't go feeding your pets any chocolate. On to a more lighter note, literally, have you ever seen those streams of light in the background of the battlefield stages when they turn dark and wonder just what they are? No? Well, I have the answer for that, and it's actually pretty interesting. You see, Smash Ultimate is the first game in the series to have no unlockable stages at all, if you don't count DLC. All base game stages are available from the start, and I guess to still somewhat keep the feel of unlocking stages alive, they made it so that Battlefield, Big Battlefield, and after it was added Small Battlefield, had an unlockable element to them, namely those streams of light, as they actually don't appear at all if you haven't beaten World of Light yet, the game's story mode. During that mode's true ending, you see all the remaining spirits return to their own game's worlds, which forms these huge streams of light. So since these streams of light in the background of the Battlefield stages, which are Smash original stages, don't appear until you've seen this ending, I think it's safe to say that they are supposed to be lone spirits still making their way to their own worlds. Personally, I think it would have been awesome if instead of these tiny little lines, they just had this huge vortex show up in the background, but I can see how that would be distracting to some, so I get why they didn't do that. Either way, this is a really cool little detail, and I'm sure some of you that haven't beaten World of Light never noticed that these streams aren't showing up in your copy of the game. Here's the quick side-by-side comparison using a new Switch profile I made where I haven't beaten World of Light. It obviously still turns dark, the few light streams just aren't showing up. And in case you're wondering, this also goes for the stages Battlefield and Omega forms, since they all use the same background. And while we're on the topic of stages, a lot of people know by now that on the Spirit Train stage, Toon Link in the background gets replaced with Alfonso from Spirit Tracks if Toon Link himself is in the match. This is well known by now because Masahiro Sakurai announced this himself and it was a hot meme back in 2014. Good times. Similarly, King Dedede normally shows up in the background of Dreamland but doesn't if he's in the match, but this one was also in Smash 4 so it's pretty well known by now as well. But there are 2 more stages where something in the background changes if a specific character is in the match that I haven't seen anyone talk about, probably because these are exclusive to Ultimate. One of them is on Great Plateau Tower, another Zelda stage. Normally there's a pedestal with the Sheikah Slate from Breath of the Wild in it in the background, as that's where you put it when downloading the maps in that game. But if you have stage hazards turned off and have Link in the match, the pedestal is still there, but the Sheikah Slate isn't in it, which is most likely done because he uses it for his down special. The reason this only happens with stage hazards turned off is because when they're on, you can destroy the stone spire above the stage, which will then be reconstructed by the Sheikah Slate in that pedestal. I guess this would look weird if it happened without the slate in there, especially considering a droplet of tech water falls on top of it eventually. So if hazards are turned on and Link is in the match, there's just a duplicate Sheikah Slate in the background. As for the Omega and Battlefield versions of this stage, as long as Link is in the match, the Sheikah Slate will never be there, regardless of stage hazard toggle setting, since there's obviously no stone spire for you to destroy. And the last stage with a quirk like this is Mute City SNES, more specifically the Battlefield and Omega forms of the stage. Normally, Captain Falcon's racing vehicle, the Blue Falcon, can be seen doing laps around the course in the background, but if Captain Falcon is in the match, it'll be replaced by Dr. Stewart's Golden Fox, his racing vehicle. Captain Falcon's battle entrance animation in Smash has him hopping out of the Blue Falcon, and he obviously uses it for his final Smash, so that's why it can't appear if Captain Falcon is in the match, and because it's his vehicle, of course. This actually means that all 4 of the original F-Zero racers are represented in Smash in a significant way. Captain Falcon is obviously playable, Samurai Goro is an assist trophy, Dr. Stewart can show up in the background of Mute City SNES, and Pico's Wild Goose vehicle gets used in World of Light. I mean, that's kinda significant. And as for why this doesn't happen on the normal form of the stage, well, the Blue Falcon is actually a part of the stage that you fight on, instead of just being a background element, so I get why they wouldn't change it in that case. Not to mention that the Golden Fox already shows up in the normal form as well. Moving on to something completely different, you know how Ryu and Ken have their famous Hadouken move? With Ryu it looks just like a standard blue fireball, but with Ken the fireball has an apparition of sorts of his hands in there, which is a reference to the Street Fighter games where the same thing happens with Ken and not Ryu. The design of these hands are naturally the exact same as his own hands on his body, gloves and all, so you might be wondering, what happens if Kirby uses Hadouken then? He's got no hands. While with Ryu's version it just looks exactly the same as his, but with Ken's version, the hands in the fireball will actually be replaced with Kirby's little nub hands, which is just adorable. Reminds me of how he gets a plush Kazooie to use for his Banjo and Kazooie copy ability. Just like that, this detail just makes sense. I mean, it would look pretty weird if Kirby's fireball just had Ken's hands in there, wouldn't it? And it'd be boring if Kirby's Hadouken when using Ken's ability was just like Ryu's with nothing in there. Alright, last one for today. This one's really cool, albeit kinda weird. Mega Man has a Mega Dog called Rush. Debuting in Mega Man 3, this was an ability he could use called Rush Coil, where he would make Rush the robotic dog spawn in, and you could then use it as a trampoline to reach higher places. When you use this ability, Mega Man would turn red and white, matching Rush, and this is one of his alternate costumes in Smash. So if you use this costume and then use Up Special, which utilizes Rush, it looks especially fitting. But if you use it with any other costume or even his default one, it might feel a little off. But obviously they couldn't have Mega Man change color mid-match when he uses Up Special, or any of his other attacks that make him change color in his home series. However, I guess one of the Smash devs must be a huge Mega Man nerd, because there's a secret code in Ultimate where holding down the Y button upon selecting Mega Man and starting a match, something special will happen. If you do this, now Rush will match the color of whatever Mega Man costume uses Up Special. So Blue Rush for default Mega Man, Green Rush for Green Mega Man, and so on. If you do this with Red Mega Man, nothing changes as expected. This is of course a cool little detail, but why hide it behind a cheat code? Why not just have it always be like this? Well, as far as I can tell, Rush is always red in the Mega Man series, unlike Mega Man who changes color depending on what ability you're using, so I guess they wanted to stay faithful to that. But in that case, why even include this secret at all? Honestly, I don't know. Maybe someone on the Smash team is a huge Mega Man nerd like I said and put this in the game in secret without the big boss Masahiro Sakurai knowing about it, which would be pretty funny. I know that might sound like a crazy conspiracy theory, but there is a little oversight with this Easter egg, and that's that the beam Rush disappears with always stays red no matter the alt, which could maybe support that theory, because if it wasn't added in secret, someone might have noticed that little mistake before the game was done, and this secret probably would have been listed in Mega Man's tips menu, which it isn't. But then again, I am probably looking way too deep into this small oversight. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time they missed something this simple and then never fixed it in a patch. Regardless, it's really neat, and I'll be sure to use it every time I play as Mega Man from now on, which will be never because he's like my worst character. Anyways, that's gonna do it for today. Be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, follow my Twitter, support me on Patreon like these awesome people, reblog me on Tumblr, add me on Google+, play Raid Shadow Legends, take me out on a date, kiss me goodnight before bed, and recommend my channel to all your friends. Thanks for watching, goodbye. You're still here? Okay, in that case, I'll reward you with one more cool fact. This video was uploaded on April Fools, and as such, everything in this video is fake. That's right, all completely not real. I made you believe though, right? Don't lie. Now you might be thinking, what do you mean everything was fake? I saw those rushes change color, I saw that Sheikah Slade not be there, and I saw Sonic jump in front of the stage and die. Well, you see, I recently got my hands on a second moddable Nintendo Switch and decided to have some fun with it, so I put out a tweet asking for some Smash Ultimate mod creators to reach out to me, and when they did, I commissioned them to make some random stuff I came up with that isn't in the game into reality. So first and foremost, obviously, shoutouts to the modders that I worked with. Crimblow, also just known as Crim, made the Rush recolors and they look fantastic. HappyMilla made the Pokemon Trainer Pokéball animations with Ghost Soup helping out fully coding it into the game, big thanks to the both of them for that. C#M7 made Kirby's nub hands actually show up inside Ken's Hadoken, because yeah, that doesn't happen in base game. He actually just shoots out Ken's hands, which looks super stupid. Wannabe Dev 64 aka Bede made the amazing animation of Sonic wagging his finger and jumping off screen, which actually does KO him. And lastly, Willie Crescent made a number of stage edits, namely removing the Sheikah Slate from Great Plateau Tower, replacing the Blue Falcon with the Golden Fox in the backdrop of Omega and Battlefield's Mute City SNES, and removing the Eclipse lines from Battlefield's background, all done by him. And yeah, I completely pulled those being spirits out of my ass. Just like everything else in this video, completely made up by me. Actually, all of these were originally going to be in an episode of Missed Opportunities, but I decided to reuse them for an epic April Fool's useless Smash Facts video instead. Okay, to be fair, some things I mentioned actually are in the game normally. Lucario and Mewtwo are the only Pokemon characters to not emerge from a Pokeball for their entrance animation. Alfonso does actually replace Toon Link on Spirit Train if he's being played in the match. King Dedede doesn't float by on Dreamland if he's in the match. Pico's Wild Goose is used in World of Light. Ken's hands do show up inside his Hadoken. Kirby does get a plush Kazooie for his Banjo and Kazooie ability. Wireframe Little Mac's entrance animation actually does have his hoodie change color in the middle of it. And yes, cookies kill wild parrots in Minecraft. Though I guess that's not Smash Brothers. So you might be wondering, what about chocolate hurting Isabelle and Duck Hunt? Well, yes, that was also fake, but it wasn't done with mods. Instead, I did that by myself through basic video editing tricks. Though it is still definitely real that dogs and cats can't have chocolate in real life, please don't feed that to your pets. If you want a more in-depth showcase of how all these modifications actually work and how I made them look convincing for this video, there's a behind-the-scenes coverage of this video live right now exclusively to my Patreon supporters, which you can check out if you want. There's also more of these videos if you're interested. I also urge you to check out all the modders that helped me make this video into what it is. They will of course all be linked down in the description. A couple of them work on a mod called Hue Draw Remix, or just HDR, which is a giant overhaul that makes the game faster paced and changes some movesets. I've been playing it a lot with friends recently and I love it. It's also still being updated. Back to actual useless Smash Facts for a second. If you follow this series, you probably know that I always make a tweet asking what a couple of characters have in common, and the first person to get it right gets a shoutout. Well, I did the same thing this time, and guess what? For the first time ever, nobody got it right. And that's because the answer is nothing. Yep, these characters have nothing special in common that nobody else does. I literally just randomized a list of all characters and picked the top 9 for this tweet. Got him. The sometimes above Dark Samus was just there to throw people off, which worked with flying colors. And you know what else? I digitally removed one of Violet's fingers and not a single person noticed. Got him again. Look at all these idiots trying to get the answer right. Nope. Nuh-uh. Not even close. Maybe. Nice try, Dumbo. Haha. Yeah, I still haven't won one of these. Anyways, that really is the end of the video. If you want to help troll people, feel free to share clips of this video online with some text saying like, "What? I didn't know this." Big shoutouts to Giant Fire and Cole, Sylveon700, Quote is Cool, LuraFX1, Super Pig X, The Game Didi, The Flying Fire, Ride the Yoshi, Milk and Frogs, Sheen for the win, Gurk, Noso, Lime the Chef, and the rest of my awesome Patreon supporters. Don't forget that if you join these people with the $5 and up tier, there's a behind the scenes of this video waiting for you. Big thanks again for watching. Let me know if you were completely fooled by this video, and if you weren't, at which point you started catching on. Anyways, that's all for now. Please have a great rest of your day.